So here's where I want to work from today. Now, we're going to make some templates. So this file that I just made right here, I'm going to go ahead and drag it. So I'm clicking on top of my templates folder so that it's highlighted. And I can see that I'm in that folder by looking here. And I'm going to drag and drop this into this space right here and let go. And what that's going to do is put that in my template folder for me to work with. All right? So I'm going to be using another new thing today. So I'm going to go to my applications. I'm going to grab my Illustrator. I'm going to drag my Illustrator down here. And I'm going to go back into my documents folder, and I'm going to grab this file right here, and I'm going to drag that to Photoshop, which I already have open. I'm going to do that for two reasons. If all I do is double click on the file, a lot of times it'll open in preview or something else. And it looks bad, and then you think you have a bad scan, so you go back over to the scan. Like, it creates this whole thing. But if I drag and drop it to Photoshop, and then I know it's going to open in Photoshop and I can work with it, we're not creating something that we can actually like print and be proud of necessarily out of here. So a couple of things to keep in mind as you go through and work on this. What I'm going to ask you to do for at least one of your designs is create a template. You can do it for all three if you want to, but you have to do it for one. Part of your grade is, did you make a template? So if you're taking notes, write how to create a template in your notes, and we're going to go over how to do that. So when I open this up, I can just move my cursor out from the outside, and I can straighten out this so that it's in line with the edge of my sketch, and I can go ahead and double click on that. Or I can go up here to image rotation, and I'm assuming that this was intended to be so it's right reading. So I'm going to go 90 degrees clockwise. All right. Now, here are the things that are important about your template. You don't have to know Photoshop at all. You just have to do these few things. All right. Number one, you want to get it straight, right? Because drawing over something crooked creates a whole other level of things. You don't want to make it straight in Illustrator. You want to make it straight here, right? So when you first open it up, it gives you the option, or if you make a selection or use image rotation, like lots of different ways to do that. Second, the smaller your file is, the less annoying it is to work with. So if you scale top and bottom to the edge of your composition with your crop tool, so it's the fifth tool from the top, this little cropping corner, and you double click inside of it, it'll apply that crop. All right? Next thing I'm going to do is I want to make this file as small as I possibly can. It's already pretty small. And I want to make it the right size. So those are two things I'm going to be looking for. Is your template the right size? And is it as small as it can possibly be? So how do we figure that out? So we're going to use something called image size. And the width and height should be roughly 3 inches if you sketched it to scale. But if you didn't sketch it to scale, maybe it's 1 inch by 1 inch, or maybe it's 4 inches by 4 inches, right? So I'm pretty good size-wise here. I'm going to leave it on resample automatic. And I want my resolution to be 72. And I'm going to then click on OK. And it didn't make it that much smaller in doing just that, but it made it the right size. So it's ready to kind of rock and roll. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command S because that's going to become your best friend. You need to learn no other key command ever but Command S. That should be like an automatic thing that happens with your left hand. Command S, Command S, Command S, Command S. Your life will be happier if you just learn Command S. All right? So once I have this in here, there's a couple of other things that I can do. Now, you'll notice at 72 resolution, when I make this big, it doesn't look great. If that drives you insane, you can scan it at a higher resolution, but there's really no need for that. You're just using it to trace over. So as long as you have enough information for tracing over, you're good. So we're going to do a couple of things to make it smaller. So you see this little number at the bottom, 141K? I want that to be under 100K. I want it to be the tiniest little file I could ever make so that if I put 30 of these in one Illustrator document, we wouldn't even know they were there. So I'm going to teach you the things that will make that happen. Number one, there's no color, right? And by default, it makes it RGB. So go to Image, Mode, Grayscale. So Image, Mode, Grayscale. Watch that little number at the bottom. When I do it, I know it's teeny tiny. Discard the color information, and we're already down to 47K. We really don't need to do much more than that. But if you had a really big illustration, you might want to make it even smaller. And because I'm a total geek, I like to keep things super small because then I can have as many things as I want and I never get bogged down. So here's another trick. Image, Mode, Bitmap. When we look at these sketches, if they're just black and white, we don't need any grayscale information. So if we go to Image, Mode, Bitmap, now mind you, you had to go to grayscale first. You can't skip grayscale. You have to go Image, Mode, Grayscale, and then Image, Mode, Bitmap. God bless. I can go ahead and say, okay, oh God, right? That does not look so fantastic, does it? So here's a little trick. Before you go to Bitmap, go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and make your file a little bit darker. Even maybe say, hey, these are gray, but they should really be black. So I'm picking on a light area that should be black with my black eyedropper, and this is gray, but it should be white. So I'm creating more contrast through the use of levels, right? When I create more contrast, then making it into a bitmap gives me more information. Now you'll notice there's more information, but it's still a little bit like grid-like. So let's undo that for a minute. There are choices when you go to bitmap. I like to use the 50% threshold when I do it because it keeps a little bit more of the integrity of those original lines. Now here's what I don't want you to do. You are never going to print, share, do anything outward with this other than I'm going to look at it to make sure that it's a small file size, which is now 5K. That makes me so happy, right? Teeny, 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 tiny little file. I could put 100 of them in, and it wouldn't even slow down my work in Illustrator. But this is what I see people doing. They're like, okay, I need this to be perfect, so I'm going to erase all of the... Why? You're the only one that has to deal with it. If it's going to really drive you crazy and you can clean it up quickly, go ahead and do that. But really, you don't need to clean up anything. You just need to be able to get this guy in there and use it. So we're going to go ahead and save this, Command-S, your best friend. We're going to make sure it's a TIFF. Woohoo! We're going to make sure it's a bitmap. Woohoo! We're going to make sure it's 72 resolution. Whoop. Woohoo! There it is.
How do you get there again?
Image.
Size. Okay,
Image size.
Yeah.
Yay! Everything's looking good for me right now. All right, and I know I saved it in my template folder, so I know I'm in good shape. So Command-S, and then File Close, or if you're a key command person, Command-W closes your window. All right? So File Close or Command-W will close whatever you're working on.